New Braunfels is home to numerous historical residences, each having unique stories to call their own. Many homes have been renovated and preserved over the years to not only maintain their history, but to tell the story of the individuals and families who lived there. Renovations are costly and time-consuming, but the curiosity, admiration, and respect for the homes and the individuals associated with them far outweigh the setbacks of money and time. The Lindheimer home, built in 1852 and located at 491 Kamau Street, is among these notable historical houses that tells the story of one man and his accomplishments that are truly special to the city of New Braunfels.
This is the most historic house in New Braunfels because it belonged to the most significant man in our history, the man who was the father of Texas botany and the publisher of our German language newspaper for 20 years.
This man's name is Ferdinand Lindheimer. He was born in Frankfurt, Germany in 1801, but immigrated to the United States as a political refugee in 1834. A few months after arriving in the United States, Lindheimer traveled to Veracruz, Mexico, where he developed a love for plant collecting and received word of Texas's struggle for freedom against Mexico. He joined the Texas Army in 1836 and fought in the Texas Revolution, then decided to stay in Texas to continue collecting plants after Texas won its independence. By the early 1840s, Lindheimer was sending plant collections to George Engelmann, a botanist friend from his days in Frankfurt, but was making no money for his hard work. He wondered if he could make a living as a botanist. Engelmann and his botanist partner, Asa Gray, were impressed with Lindheimer's work and in 1843 agreed that he continue collecting in Texas to become the state's first permanent resident plant collector. For the next 9 years, Lindheimer traveled from the banks of the Gulf of Mexico to various regions in the Texas Hill Country, making $8 for every 100 plants he cataloged. Lindheimer settled in the German colony of what was later to be named New Braunfels when he joined the Adelsverein, the Society for the Protection of German Immigrants in Texas, in 1844. The society gave him 2.5 acres of land to continue collecting plants, but his community involvement took him away from his love of plant collecting and into the world of newspaper publishing, when he was elected to become the editor of the New Braunfels Zeitung, the New Braunfels Times, in 1852. He addressed a variety of controversial topics, such as slavery and political elections, and often provided opinionated viewpoints. The Lindheimer home was built in 1852 as a double home, so that Lindheimer would have a place from which to publish his newspaper. The two front doors access the two main parts of the house, the living space and the working space, and is why the home is considered a double home. The original home included a parlor and bedroom for living, and an office and publishing room for writing and printing. A kitchen was added onto the back of the house in the late 1850s to make the fifth room. Lindheimer was never wealthy, but he was influential and had a passion for helping his community grow. That's one thing Ethel Canyon believes people should know about Lindheimer.
They need to know that you don't have to have a lot to begin with to make your name known in a community or in the world. That all you have to have is a desire to do something and to make it important for someone else that follows after you. Not just live in a place for yourself and for the day, but to think of the future, and that's what he did.
Lindheimer died in 1879, but his legacy and home were preserved when 2 generations of relatives lived in his home and maintained it until 1964. Lindheimer's last living granddaughter, Sita Seaman Martin, gave the property to the New Braunfels Conservation Society at that time. The only major changes to the original home prior to 1964 were made to the house's exterior. Lindheimer's shingle roof was replaced with a tin roof, a large front porch was built on to protect the 2 front doors from damage, and the original plastered walls were removed and replaced with horizontal wooden siding. The Conservation Society strived to preserve and display the home in the time that Lindheimer had occupied it. With the help of Sita Seaman Martin's recollections of the house around 1900 in a painting of Lindheimer's original home, all of the modernizations to the home were removed. By 1967, a shingle roof was reapplied, the porch was removed, and the exterior walls were replastered. The society spent an estimated $25,000 and roughly 500 hours of labor to restore the home to its original condition.
The interior had not been changed, so we didn't have to wonder too much about that. And many of the original furnishings were made available to us, so that we were able to come up with what is considered a very good restoration.
My husband put plexiglass on the windows to protect the old glass that's in the window. He fixed up the kitchen, put a stove pipe from the stove so that it would look more like a working museum. We also took the pictures, all the pictures in the house, to a conservator in Austin and had them conserved.
A garden was added to the home in the 1960s, but is not the botanical garden that the Adelsverein had hoped Lindheimer would establish. Instead, it was planted to honor Lindheimer and represents the garden that he would have likely planted for himself. He is said to have always wanted a garden of his own, but never got the chance to put one in before his death. Altogether, Lindheimer classified 41 plants, a few of which can be seen in the garden.
We, at one time, did desire to have a garden with all of his plants, but it's a little difficult. The early plants are weeds, and they are not desirable for show. It makes it very difficult to keep a garden like that.
To preserve a home, a great deal of money and time is involved. The Conservation Society makes it possible for the public to witness how Lindheimer lived, worked, and accomplished great things during his life. Lindheimer devoted his life to his passion and had the ability to influence a city with his newspaper and a nation with his botany. This is why the Lindheimer home is special, and this is why it will last. Currently, the New Braunfels Conservation Society keeps the paint fresh, the plumbing working, and the grounds maintained at all times.
We check it very carefully. We keep it cleaned. We keep the grounds prepared and attended outside. And we have an alarm system to help protect it. So we expect it to be here forever. Your grandchildren can come and see it.